Okay, welcome everybody to financial reporting presentation. My name is Moshe Lerman. I'm the reports coordinator at Sellercloud. I already met some of you, but my job is to coordinate with developers, our senior developer here, Avshalom, to map out and configure the reporting to satisfy your reporting needs. For those of you who missed the earlier presentations we had the intro to reporting, which just gives some basic background to reporting. The second presentation was given by one of our senior reps who used his vast experience with clients to map out some scenarios of how you can use Sellercloud, how you can use reporting to achieve what you need. So this brings us here to our final topic on reporting, which is financial reporting. In this presentation, I'm going to go through some of the important elements of our financial reporting. Then I'm going to turn things over to Avshalom, who is our senior developer, to go through some additional features. So before we get started, I just want to give a little background as to how reporting has evolved in Sellercloud. Initially, we just focused on providing some basic indicators, insights, and then we focused on improving our accuracy through transactional reporting. And then as part of that, we were able to tackle a split order issue that was dogging a lot of clients, and it was a big issue in reporting. And through much hard work, Avshalom has brought us a solution to that, and to a point where we now have a structure with a high level of accuracy, and ultimately we now are focusing on building out accounting level reports, which then we hope to eventually get to a point where we can provide you a fully encompassed accounting environment. So that's our ultimate goal. I would like to start off in this section going through understanding some of the terms that we use in P&L reports and how we use them. One important thing that I would like to start off with is accounting basis. So accounting basis is something that can confuse a lot of people because, and I mentioned this in passing in our intro to reporting presentation, that accrual, many people do their accounting by accrual, so they assume they want to run their reports by accrual in Sellercloud. Now, that is a bit of a misconception over here because accrual would be reliant on a full accounting environment, which can deal with all the nuances of accrual. In our case, what we've done with accrual basis and accounting, when you're running your reports by accrual basis, is we've essentially borrowed the term from accounting. We're calculating profit based on the expectation of a receivable, of the money coming to you, and then when an item is returned, of you issuing a refund to the customer. In Sellercloud's definition of accrual, it's essentially ignoring all payment records and refunds, and cash focuses on the cash flow of the order. Now, because Sellercloud is, as one of the constraints for shipping orders in Sellercloud is payments, you need to have a paid order in order to ship it. It's not really relevant unless you're doing the exceptions where you allow shipping of unpaid orders. So in this slide, I give you just to illustrate what would happen if you calculate an order, the profit on an order based on accrual versus based on cash. In this case, I have an order that was shipped and refunded. So you see on the top, you have the refund column of $50, the grand total minus the refund. The refunds should cancel out the revenue, and then you'll have the cost, the item cost of $25 and total fees of $5, which would give you a little $30 loss on the order. In this case, you see the accrual profit does not take into account the refund on the top. And that's because, again, we don't look at payment records, we don't look at refunds. In order for the revenue to be deducted, the item needs to be returned in accrual basis. So that's a gap that exists in accrual. As opposed to in cash, If an order is refund, you see over here on the bottom, the cash profit is at a loss of $30 because we calculated payments minus refunds, and then we calculated the cost of item cost plus total fees is $30. You have a $30 loss on this order. So I strongly suggest that most of the time you use cash and only use accrual when you absolutely need to, and understand the limits of running reports by accrual. Next, I want to discuss P&L adjustments, and this is also sometimes can be misconstrued. P&L adjustments are essentially the way we classify anything that's a post-sale activity that's not related to the actual sale. So a refund would be related to the actual sale. A refund of commission would be related to the actual sale because that's the cost of doing business. As opposed to an adjustment would be something like a reimbursement for something that happened after you already made the sale and shipped it, or an insurance claim on an item that was lost by the shipping carrier. So you got that money back, that's an adjustment, and usually they're not repeatable transactions that necessarily happen as part of the cost of doing business. So there we have a special field called P&L adjustments. I had one client that tried to backdate some item cost adjustments using the P&L adjustments, and then they ran a report and they didn't see their item cost change, and they wanted to know why. I said, well, if you put it into the adjustment field, it's going to stay in the adjustment field, and it will show up as an adjustment. So you see on top, there's a profit and loss tab right there. That's from the order. There's a field adjustments highlighted, and then on the bottom is the report. You see there's a field called adjustments. So it will show on your reports as adjustment, a generic P&L adjustment. Next, I'm going to tackle one of the more difficult subjects, and that is transaction and movement types. In Sellercloud, we have transaction detail reports, and we have on the product profit report, it also shows you breakdowns based on the type of transaction. We have a higher level category of transaction type that then gets further broken down into movement types. In the higher level category of transaction types, you have debits and credits. Now, again, this is another borrowed term from accounting. It's not actual debit and a credit. The way we define it in Sellercloud is the original sale. The credits are any ensuing transactions on an order after it's shipped. So refund, return, adjustments, reimbursements are all classified under the transaction type credit. And then you have non-order transactions, and these are movement types and transactions that do not have an order ID associated with it, such as storage fees, subscription fees, and Amazon ad fees. Right now, Amazon provides us with the ad fees without any order IDs associated with it. And then each of the above categories are further broken down into movement types. And you can see this here on this slide. You see the top lane is transaction type, where you have debits, credits, non-order transactions. And then the middle lane over there is the movement types, which describe the nature of the transaction. And then you have the bottom lane I added just to show you that adjustments sometimes in your transaction details report, you'll see it for reimbursements will actually show the movement type as reimbursement, but the value will show up under the adjustment field. And over here you can see how it's displayed in reports. Now it's displayed slightly differently in the product profit reports versus the transaction details report. Transaction details report is on the bottom. You see there's on the third column, transaction type, you have a credit, and the fourth column is movement type reimbursement. On top, you have the same reimbursement showing up on the first row. There's the credit. It'll just show the transaction type. And then for non-order transaction, it actually specifies on the top, on the product profit reports, it actually shows the details of the specific non-order transaction type, but for anything order related, it will either just show it as credit or debit, and then you'll see it in the columns, the values in the columns. Next is kit component profit calculation. So kit component profit calculation presents a special challenge that you're selling the item on the parent level with the parent price, right? So the components don't have their own price on the order. So how do we calculate the profit per component if you want to run a report to see how your components are performing throughout, because oftentimes you'll have them in many different kits. So the process is that we find the proportion of the component cost to kit total cost. And then we distribute the payment among the components based on the component cost proportion. And then we calculate the profit based on that. So we'll calculate the revenue based on the component cost proportion, and then calculate the cost, and there's your profit. So here I have an example of that. You have, in this example, there's this order you see on the bottom is 5138472. The kit parent is called TKI. The SKU is TKI, test kit item, unit price of $25. This kit TKI has two components. I'm going to focus on component 1. Test kit item component 1, which is TKIC-1, has a cost of $2. The total kit cost you see over here in the middle, the kit details, you see the total component cost is $8. So then you see on the right corner on top, component cost of the TKIC is $2. We divide that by the total kit total cost, we get your component cost proportion. Then on the bottom, you see we take the unit price, which was $25, we times the component cost proportion, and there we get your payment, your revenue for that component. And we do the same thing essentially on, let's say, an order level cost, let's say like a tax. If we're trying to distribute the tax on a component level so that we can get the cost or any other fees, let's say a shipping cost that was done per package, we're trying to distribute the shipping cost per component so we get the full margins correct. We'll distribute it based on this component cost proportion. Next, I would like to give it over to Avshalom to discuss split orders.
First of all, thank you all for coming. Thank you, Moshe, for the introduction. And let me apologize for the state of my voice. I did not intend to schedule getting over a cold for the Sellercloud User Conference. So live data versus profit and loss data for split orders. You may already be familiar with. We warehouse our live data into a separate area of the database in order to optimize both running report queries and to optimize the day-to-day operational processes in Sellercloud. It's almost exactly like what we're saying. You have an order. You want to split it into two different orders. The most common scenario of when that happens is if you have an order with multiple products. One product has to be shipped from one warehouse. Another product has to be shipped from a different warehouse. The way you do that in Sellercloud is to take the order and split the product into a separate order. So the original parent order will be shipped from warehouse A, and the split child order will be shipped from warehouse B. There's other scenarios as well where you would want to use split orders, but that's the most common scenario. Let's go ahead and split an order. So we have here an order with two products. The total on this order is $409.50, and this order has been paid for. If we go on to the payment tab before the split, you can see here that there's a payment summary for the full amount of the order, and the payment details, we have a record of that payment. Split orders that were split before payment is a totally different story. In most cases, orders are split after they're marked as paid. Most cases. So we go ahead and split the order. You can split the entire quantity of a product onto a different order, or you can split part of the quantity. In our case, in our example, we're keeping it simple. We're splitting the entire quantity of this second product to the next order. We now have a parent order and a child order. As you can see, this parent order only has one product on it, and the total has been reduced by the amount of the second product. We only have a total of $160 instead of the original $409.50. The child order will have the rest of the total. Now, for those of you who are familiar with this process, or if you're have a lot of attention to details, you'll notice that this particular order has been overcharged. As you can see over here, the order is charged and overpaid. The reason for that is that in Sellercloud we have a limitation that a payment cannot be assigned to more than one order. So the original payment on the parent order stays on the original parent order. So of course that will result in the parent order being overpaid. The child order, on the other side of the coin, will have no payment on it. At least that's how it was for a while. The child order has no payment on it. That causes a number of issues. One is, one of the restrictions in Sellercloud is that an order in general can't be shipped unless it's paid. How is that child order going to be shipped if it has no payment? And another issue pertaining to reports is that the parent order will now show a very inflated profit. It was way overpaid. And the child order will show a loss. You shipped out an item with no payment. So how to resolve these two issues? The first issue, how do you ship the child order, was solved by applying a discount to the child order in the amount of child order total. So you can see here that this child order had its total of $249.50. We apply a discount to that child order, and it is now marked as paid and can then be shipped. If you come over to the Payments tab on the child order, you'll see that everything is pretty much zeroed out because the total of that child order was offset by the discount. So the child order has been paid and can now be shipped, but we still have the issue of the parent order has been overcharged and shows a disproportionate profit, and the child order will still show a loss. So the way we resolve that is due to the following fact: this restriction that a payment must be applied to one and only one order exists in the core of Sellercloud to ensure the correct operations, the day-to-day operations, the processes. That's where this restriction was put in place. But when it comes to reports, those are not the day-to-day operational processes of Sellercloud. In that case, we are actually splitting up the payment between the parent order and the child order. Instead of showing a discount on the child order, we actually, as you can see here, the other charges, which is where the discount would show up, you would see a negative of other charge, is now 0. And in the Payments tab, you would see the payments as you expect. Part of the payment remains on the parent order, and part of the payment remains on the child order. And that's how we can resolve, even though in core data, it'll show the parent order overcharged and the child order as not as showing a loss. When it comes to the reports, it will show accurately based on this fix that we applied. The next feature that we added was an order snapshot. When you split an order, that child order is not just a legal fiction, it is an actual real order. So that means that that order can be split as well. Also, a parent order could be split. You can split an order into multiple child orders. So theoretically, you could have a parent order with multiple child orders. Those child orders could have grandchild orders, and you have a whole hierarchy of a family tree of orders. So how would I be able to see where did this original order go? All these products from the original order, can I see them all in one place? So for that, we use the order snapshot. You can find the order snapshot in the toolbox drop down on the order details page. Of course, if you start, it'll show up in your tab list. And let's take an order and do a lot of splits. We're going to split the parent order into a child order, and then another child order, and then one of those child orders will be split into a grandchild order. Let's keep track of all of this. We come to the order snapshot. Here's our original order with all of its products and a list of the orders where each of those products ended up. So the first product went to these two orders. It stayed on the parent order, and some of the quantity went onto a child order. The second product, some of it remained on the parent order, and some of it went onto the child order, and some of it went onto the grandchild order. If you click on these products, you'll see the list of all the orders where they ended up. The first product, you can see here the list of the orders with additional data about the product. If you click on the second product, same story. You'll see the list of the orders where this product went, the quantity, additional price and payment data. And we have in the last column, I have this action. These last two images are the same product, one before the profit and loss process ran and one after the profit and loss process ran. So you can see here that the profit and loss on the product is now available, and you can go and check that order and its data. So when you come to the order snapshot, you'll be able to see all of the products on a particular order, which child orders, grandchild orders, where they all end up to. It's all in one place. Next, we have upcoming in development a feature for accounting reports. From this point on, terms such as debit and credit mean what they actually mean in your typical accounting scenario. The idea of our accounting feature is to take the existing data in Sellercloud reports and present it. We take our existing Sellercloud report data and present it in a double entry booking format, your typical regular accounting format. So what you'll do is you would, just like any other accounting context, you would create an account. Every single transaction in Sellercloud, every single amount, you'll have a list of accounts that you want to debit this transaction to and credit it to. So you'll create an account with account number, account name, is a revenue account, debit, expense account, liability account. A normal side is a credit or debits, etc. We have another feature that you could limit the account to a particular company and channel. Won't go into that just yet. And then you have your chart of accounts. We can see here that we have a list of all the different accounts. We have accounts for cash transactions, accounts receivable, and you have a list of all your accounts to debit and credit transactions. How do you get the data from Sellercloud report data to be posted to your accounts? You have to map that data to its particular accounts, which appropriately enough would be called transaction account mapping. An example of that is here. We have here a list of many different transaction types in Sellercloud, the amounts for payment, for subtotal, for grand total, for items cost commission, all these different fees, all these different amounts that we have available in Sellercloud. You'll choose two accounts for the double entry bookkeeping, one account to credit these transactions to, and one account to debit these transactions to, and you have your list of mappings. So a payment transaction will be debited to my cash account, and it'll be credited to my accounts receivable account. And you do that for every type of transaction. And that's how you set up your account environment. Once you have that mapping, when the P&L process runs overnight, it will take that data and post it to the accounts to which it has been mapped. Then you can come to the general ledger of every individual account. In this case, it's my cash account, and I ran it for the date range of November 2023. And all the payments that occurred, I did a lot of test orders on that day. And you can see here in the general ledger that all these transactions that were payments for all these orders were credited and in this case debited to the cash account. You can see as well other financial statements. We have a trial balance that will be available. You run it for a date range and you can see the various accounts, the debits and credits to those accounts, how they balance out, such as you would find in any accounting report. And you'll also have other financial statements available, such as a balance sheet. You'll have your asset accounts on one side, your liability and equity accounts on the other side, and the balance totals. And if you want to see where these account balances come from, you hover over the account name and you'll be able to go straight to the general ledger for that particular account. Similarly, we'll have an income statement available that will work in the same way. You'll have revenue accounts, expense accounts, all listed. You can go back to the general ledger page for those accounts, and hopefully this feature will be able to eventually grow into a full accounting environment, and will hopefully be able to streamline your business process. Thank you very much, and we look forward to continue.